Hello, and welcome to the Orlando World's Sunday Showdown round of 64. This week, we see two attractions from Busch Gardens Tampa Bay go head-to-head, with the original Gwazi dual roller coaster up against Tanganyika Tidal Wave, a river ride attraction. The original Gwazi ride was a wooden twin roller coaster with two tracks, one themed to a lion, the other a tiger, named after the mythical creature, Gwazi, a creature with the head of a tiger and body of a lion. It opened at the park on the 18th of June, 1999. Gwazi was Florida's first wooden dueling roller coaster, and the second dueling coaster in Orlando, opening just a short time after Universal's Dueling Dragons at Islands of Adventure. The ride was fun, with the 1.5 million feet of lumber used for the ride, giving the ride an element of fear, as you can feel the rumble of the wood as the trains pass. Gwazi was known, however, for being a very rough and bumpy attraction. The trains passed by each other on their separate tracks on several occasions, generating up to 3.5 G-forces. Gwazi's two tracks both had similar courses, travelling around 12 hills and around 15 sharp twisted corners, making the ride a bit unpredictable. Although many riders preferred the Tiger track, which was a little more slalom-like, making it more fun. Tanganyika Tidal Wave originally opened in 1973 as the African Queen boat ride. It was originally an attraction similar to that of Disney's Jungle Cruise ride at Magic Kingdom. The ride was renamed and upgraded, adding in the lift hill and tidal wave drop slide at the end, making the ride more suspenseful at the end. The boats drifted peacefully around the river at a relatively slow pace, taking in some African scenery, before making the long climb up towards the incoming watery bombardment that lay in wait for riders in the bay below. The ride was fairly popular in better weather, but often was quiet during the wetter periods, due to the well-known fact that riders would be soaked heavily at the end. Non-riders were able to view the tidal wave from the bridge above the splash area, where warnings were announced that boats were about to splash the bridge area, which made it a bit of fun for those who chose not to ride. So, in this week's Busch Gardens edition, we will now move ahead into a series of rounds to find out statistically which attraction comes out on top, and will advance into the round of 32. Here we go. Gwazi ran two different tracks, but with both being almost identical apart from layout. Each track had a distance of 3,508 feet, bringing a combined track total of 7,016 feet. The ride was several hundred foot longer than that of the Dragon Challenge roller coaster that was located at Universal's Islands of Adventure, making it the longest dual coaster in Florida at the time. To create such a structure, the ride was created using over 1.5 million feet of lumber and over 2 million bolted connections to hold it all together. With two tracks to ride, Gwazi's track lengths meant that riders got a lot of ride time between both coasters. Tanganyika Tidal Wave was a far shorter attraction in terms of overall distance, with a river length of approximately 1,312 feet. Although the attraction travels at a fairly pedestrian pace, making it seem like a much longer attraction than it actually is. Despite being the much more visually pleasing attraction, its distance is much shorter than that of Gwazi. So in the first round, for ride length, Gwazi takes the first point rather comfortably. Let's head on now to the second round. Gwazi had a fairly reasonable ride time of 2.5 minutes for each train, giving you a combined time of 5 minutes if you chose to ride both trains. The ride had the reputation for being rough, making it a bumpy couple of minutes, which made it quite uncomfortable for riders for the duration. However, the wooden structure gave the riders a feeling of unpredictability, with the wooden structure having a little bit of movement, which added a little bit of suspense throughout the duration of the ride. In contrast, Tanganyika Tidal Wave was a 6-minute tranquil sail along the river, until the end before the tidal wave drop at the end. The ride was much more smoother than Gwazi, making the 6 minutes worth a big splash at the end. Tanganyika Tidal Wave passed through some African scenery, which was peaceful, but throughout the 6 minutes, there wasn't really anything that makes the ride memorable until the end. So for round 2, the scores are level with Tanganyika Tidal Wave taking the point. Let's move on to round 3. Tanganyika Tidal Wave travelled peacefully through the tranquil river, filled with over 1 million gallons of water, before reaching the lift hill, which ultimately leads to the final drop. The lift hill and the final drop were 55 feet high, and offered some stunning panoramic views of Busch Gardens when at the top. The lift hill is agonizingly slow, building up to the suspense of the final drop. The boats drift slowly to the edge of the drop, teetering for a few seconds, before hurtling rapidly down the 55-foot drop into the lagoon below, drenching riders with copious amounts of water, with a spray of up to 25 meters, which reaches a spectator splash area on the bridge above the lagoon, making the ride live up to its tidal wave name. Gwazi's 2 roller coaster tracks both reached a height of 105.4 feet, with the highest of the ride's several drops being a height of 91.8 feet tall. The ride twisted away around a few bends, then made its way up the lengthy lift hill, before banking around the corner and hitting the high drops. From here the ride gathers pace, picking up speed, rattling around on the wooden track, making the ride feel very volatile, adding a slight fear factor to an otherwise uncomfortable, yet unpredictable ride. The tall drops on the wooden coaster feel very different to those of the steel-structured roller coasters, given the flexibility of the wooden materials, making the tall drops seem much more dramatic. So taking the lead again, going into the 4th round, is Gwazi, which wins the round, being almost twice as high as the Tanganyika Tidal Wave drop. Let's move on now to round 4. In terms of thrills, the wooden tracks of the Gwazi roller coaster provide an element of uncertainty, with the rumble of the wooden boards, and the roughness of the ride trains moving round the track. Although an uncomfortable ride, it does offer some thrills, with a lot of sharp bends and plenty of hills and drops. It isn't the most exciting of attractions, but it does offer a high thrill value for a wooden coaster ride. The Tanganyika Tidal Wave boat ride, for the most part, is a fairly uneventful boat ride, not offering much in the way of thrills. However, the anticipating hill climb, and the slow drift to the inevitable drop, offer the perfect end thrill by plummeting boats into the lagoon below, drenching riders and spectators in spectacular fashion. For a boat ride with only one major splash point, the fact that it makes a huge splash at the end, makes it a decent thrill compared to other boat rides. But in the end, the unpredictable nature of Gwazi offers just a little more in the way of thrills than Tanganyika Tidal wave, so in round 4, Gwazi extends its lead going into the 5th and final round. Let's get straight into round 5. In terms of popularity, when Gwazi first opened, it was in direct competition with Dueling Dragons at Islands of Adventure, and was originally very popular. However, over the years, Gwazi's reputation for being an extremely rough ride meant that rider capacity steadily declined, with one track closing for a large amount of time, before the ride finally closed in 2015. It is currently being converted into the new Gwazi hybrid coaster, which opens in summer of 2020. Tanganyika Tidal was a fairly popular attraction in its earlier years, but just like Gwazi, it struggled to maintain popularity in its later years, with more exciting rides being unveiled. The boat ride was often seen almost empty at times, and as a result closed in 2017 and was recently replaced with Tigris in 2019. So for popularity, Gwazi just takes it, for having 2 different tracks, and a few more thrilling moments than the boat ride, meaning we do have a clear winner this week. So, this week, winning by a clear 4 points to 1, is the wooden dual roller coaster, Gwazi. So, Tanganyika Tidal Wave drops out of the competition. The ride was memorable for having one of the best splash drops of any water ride, but against Gwazi it just falls short. Gwazi advances to the next round. Has your favourite attraction advanced to the next round? Do you agree with this week's scores? Leave us a comment in the section below, and have your say. Tune in next week, where we will see Disney's Haunted Mansion go up against Universal's Jurassic Park River Adventure. See you next time. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please support us by subscribing to our channel. You can find us on social media platforms. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Orlando Worlds, and on Instagram at The Orlando Worlds. Have you seen our Foto Flashback video series featuring this week's attractions? You can check the links in the description down below. Thanks for watching.